What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the 45th episode of the Tuesday Track Talk featuring your Three Stones pit crew. I'm your gas man, Cam.
I'm your Jack man, Kellen.
And I'm your tire changer, Cam.
And we've got a loaded episode today. This episode, we're going to get down and dirty, and this episode is going to be pretty dusty. We're talking all things dirt, and well, not all things, but the majority of it dirt. And majority of it, we're going to be talking USA Nationals at Cedar Lake, as we had three pit crew members, boots on the ground. So wherever you're at, there's no sitting back in this episode. Double check those belts, one last check, elbows up, and it's going to be a good episode. So before we get into it, just saw you guys today. So how we doing?
I killed it this afternoon. I got back at 10 after 1. 2 loads of laundry, garbages were out, dishes were done, race bag was out and cleaned. Soaked my hat, so stay tuned for that. I washed that today. Took my sunglasses apart, washed those, took a shower, brushed my teeth. What else did I do? I've been killing it the last 5 hours.
I'll say I got pretty much the same thing. Obviously, I didn't have the drive, so I had a little bit extra time. Did a little bit of digging into races that happened this weekend. I got my laundry as well. I got my race bag ready for Tuesday, in Kakana. And I got a baseball game in today as well.
I mean, I guess I couldn't say I was as productive. I got back, dropped my stuff, and went to the old office.
You got work in, you just not the
The old work stuff is getting back up to the neck. We're at the chest, and going into another week, it's like I got to prevent it from getting up to the neck. So trying to stay afloat. So it's always nice to go in. Not nice to go in on a Sunday, but it is when you go in and there's nobody else in there, no distractions, no interruptions, peace and quiet. Can put the computer on, play music, no worries. So yeah, at least we're all fairly productive after that Friday night adventure. So
and Saturday.
But we're recording on a Sunday here. If Monday morning, the Monday scaries, if we were recording on a Monday, it might be a different story how we're all feeling. But yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get into it. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to be talking a lot of dirt racing. And this weekend there was no shortage of storylines in dirt racing, and especially a lot of it revolves around the old WOO, World Outlaws sprint cars and late models. And so we're going to touch briefly on the World Outlaw sprint cars here first at Federated Auto Parts Speedway at I-55. Fantastic, fun little track on the World Outlaws game, by the way, too. So no surprise, put on a fantastic race. But Friday night, we had the Ironman weekend night 1, Friday night feature, 30 laps. And I'll just stop there and I'll kick it to you guys. And we know what the big storyline is, but what thoughts do you guys have just on night 1 there for the World Outlaw late models?
Sprint cars.
Yeah, sprint cars. No, I mean McFadden got out to the lead early. High limit being off for a couple weeks, save or take advantage of some other racing that's going on. So yeah, McFadden got the lead early. Long green flag run, let some things happen. Track widened out. You had the bottom and the top kind of going for it. A lot of more cars on the bottom. And obviously, like I said, the big headline coming out of that one was the charge from Larson. One thing I didn't realize on Friday night when we heard about this was he came from the last chance race. Won the last chance race and it came from that far back. So Yeah, there was caution there on lap 20. That was the first caution, really the only caution, after Zierfoss broke. So obviously that regrouped the field, and that gave Larson a huge shot starting on the inside of the third row on that really the final restart.
Yeah, and it took him 29.99 laps to get the lead.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So and I watched the replay of it, and I mean, McFadden had it in the bag up until the middle of the backstretch when he ran into that lap car, just absolutely stalled his run and ruined his entry into 3.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, obviously Larson was coming, but lap traffic there. We've always talked about, how we feel about lap traffic playing a difference in the outcome of races, but man, it just is what it is.
Brutal.
You got to figure it out. We saw it in action, at Cedar Lake as well in some of those races where lap traffic is an issue, and sometimes it can be your best friend, and other times it's your worst nightmare. And yeah, obviously, as you could see there, McFadden gets stuck and
Yep. He
killed
juked.
all of his moment. Was that?
He juked when he should have jived.
Yeah. And killed all his momentum, and it took.
Well, I think the lap car, I mean, at the end of the day, here's kind of what I felt like I saw is the lap car knew he was running the top, so he was going to give him the top. And I think McFadden made a decision that whether or not anyone was around him or not, he wasn't going to give him a chance to slide. So I think he changed his line to go run the bottom to protect himself a little bit.
Yeah.
And the lap car just thought he was going to sail on the top and just keep doing his thing when at the last minute he made a decision to run the bottom to protect himself from getting slid, but
Well, he
cost him the race.
yeah, and he got caught coming out of 2 first there on the high line.
Right.
And then
So I mean, yeah, you want to give the guy the racing groove, but if he's going to change his line late in the race too, it's what do you do?
Yep. I mean, we've seen plenty of instances of that happening, not just on the dirt side of things, but on the asphalt side of things as well.
Yeah.
Most notably the Gandrud race last year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And one of the things I guess, we always kind of talk about too is, if you're going to be a lap car, make a firm decision and stick to it. Don't, you're going to get on the bottom and get down and run the bottom. Just there can't be any wish-wash decision when you got leaders coming by behind you and big money on the line. Make a decision and stick to it. Don't be undecided, because then you're a sitting duck and you're going to have an impact in the outcome of the race. But obviously, yeah, McFadden gets stuck there behind the lap car coming out of 2, gets back on it on the high side. Larson goes down on the inside right around the wall, and I just saw a picture of it earlier. They're both just mashing it, little wheel stands coming to the line, and Larson gets the job done. And comes from 21st to first. Obviously, we mentioned winning the last chance there. So pretty wild for him. And then I did see too, on Friday there, I was looking at or Saturday morning, he's been releasing some of his heart rate data on his social media. And that race on Friday night, he set a new PR for his heart rate, got up to 198. So higher than the Brickyard 400 for him, and new PR. So he was working behind the wheel on Friday night in that race. So
He also said too that after the checkered flag, he pretty much yelled from the checkered flag all the way up till he got out of the car in victory lane. So he's out of breath from that as well. Super excited for it.
and I think too, to that point, and he's been open about it, one of his tweets, he has not had the Kyle Larson year in a sprint car that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Yep. And he mentioned that in his interview too. He said he's not had a lot of podiums this year, and it just felt good to get back there. And especially he ran good there last year to boot.
Yeah.
So
But
back in some familiar territory and
yeah,
able to pull it off.
I guess what it comes down to is the picture in Victory Lane. I guess we figured out what made him so good.
Yeah.
We've now figured out what makes Kyle Larson a sprint car so good. That the old the old downpipe coming off of the exhaust. It's a downpipe. He's got it as an up pipe. So we now know that that's what you need to just be Kyle Larson-ish fast.
And we know that Silva is pretty handy when it comes to a sprint car as well. So
Yeah. No, it was just funny. I mean, is there an advantage to it? Probably in some fashion. I mean, I would think, whether it's whether it's heat in the right rear, downforce, I don't know. There's got to
yeah.
be something to it that you don't make a calculated decision like that and not know that there's something going on there. But clearly got to be able to drive the damn thing, that's for sure. So,
And then yeah, we figured out that he has his moments where he's very damn good.
yep.
Yeah. So who knows? Obviously social media will take it and make it a storyline, or, there'll be something behind that. He's got his pipe up, and who knows if somebody else starts trying doing it or what. But um obviously we mentioned Kyle Larson gets the win. McFadden goes second, Haudenschild, Macedo, Schatz, Schuhart, Gravel, Kofoid, Selzy, and Sweet round out your top 10. So obviously with the high rollers being off, decent amount of them at this, and I mean that top 10 right there is just loaded. So
Yeah, the old high rollers got the first two spots.
yep. So that was a fantastic race on Friday night. And then, not to be outdone, we run it back and we run race 2 at Federated Auto Parts Speedway at I-55 on Saturday night for another
I
show.
got it up here. 25 to win.
25,000. And yeah, I guess I'll let you guys start. Obviously Larson didn't quite have the run he had on Friday night. So I'll kick it off to you guys. Just what initial thoughts did you guys have on the Saturday night portion of it?
Yeah, track was just more narrow.
Yeah, and they mentioned on the broadcast too that it's the cushion thickened up rather than widened out. So it made a narrow track, but it still made for good racing. Again, it was if you guys could really hammer it on that top and get it to lock, they could really use that to gain some positions. Selzy led early in that race. And you mentioned that Larson didn't have as steep as a climb or hard as a charge as he did last time, but he did make up 3 spots in the first lap of the race. But like I said, with the cushion kind of narrowing the track up, it kind of was hard for drivers to get comfortable, and they kept switching their lines to try and find what worked for them.
Obviously Larson didn't have the charge he had on Friday night, but I would have to assume that some of the other teams and crew guys were watching that first lap going, don't even tell me this is about to happen again. When he goes elbows up on it on the first lap and gets 3 quick spots.
You're in for a long race.
Yeah, everybody else puts the field on notice there. But we did have one go upside down. Again, another young gun who's struggled a little bit as of late. He's had obviously a good year. I don't know if I would characterize it as breakout, but he's had a pretty solid year. In the young stallion Corey Day, he goes upside down, get caught behind a lap car and getting hit by Kofoid at lap 32. So took him out of contention. Just another good car. So that was unfortunate to see. But Other than that, we had a couple cautions that broke up the green flag run, the green flag runs, which again obviously makes it interesting the way the track was coming in and the way it was going. So cautions were making it a little bit interesting. Larson was P2 on lap 35 and then goes to the lead with 11 to go and gets the win going from 12 to 1. So yeah.
Just showing that he really loves that racetrack, I-55.
You know, again, it's a cool little track. Never been there, obviously, but it's a fun little track to play on. The World Outlaws game. It's a unique little bull ring. Again, kind of Cedar Lake-ish.
Yeah,
Little bull ring,
big high banks.
big high banks. A lot of room to do some juking and jiving. So Larson gets the win on Saturday night. Shots, Macedo, Selzy, Schuhart, Gravel, Kofoid, Baylog, Haudenschild, and Ganatton rounds out your top 10. So
Jennington.
Ganatton, sorry. Close enough. But yeah, that was two fantastic nights of racing at I-55 for the World Outlaw Sprint Cars. And the old high rollers chalk up some more purse money for them. So any other final thoughts on the old Woo Sprint Cars at I-55?
Yeah, well, the posse won the weekend.
Yep, and obviously getting ready for the big weekend that is ahead that we'll touch on later in the episode.
That one is going to get a little bit more chippy. So the old high rollers versus the posse. So yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic racing. Sprint cars, again, I-55's unique little bull ring track, fun to watch, puts on fantastic racing as it did. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna hop into one other preview, and this is about the extent of the asphalt talking we're gonna be doing today. But we did have a Cars Tour late model stock race at North Wilkesboro. Did not get to watch it, but it was a 1 week turnaround from what was the mayhem at Hickory, and we also had some mayhem at North Wilkesboro and a parking lot in turn one. So before we get into it, what initial thoughts do you guys have on the Cars Tour late model stock race at North Wilkesboro?
Before I touch on the race itself, Kevin Harvick raced his own car this week. Ultimately finished 11 in that one, but just cool to see him getting a late model stock.
Yeah, it's easy to get in the car when you own it. So
Yeah.
he's got access to whatever he wants whenever he wants it. So
And ultimately, you know how the car is when you get in your own equipment.
yeah, and you find out what you're working with.
So, no, otherwise with the race, Butterbean Queen starts out front. It leads for about half of the race. A lot of long green flag runs, but obviously this is the first race for the late model stocks on the new asphalt as well. They were supposed to run it earlier this year with the All-Star series or the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. They got postponed due to the rain, so this was the makeup. Otherwise, laps the big pile up. There was a single car spin that brought the caution out. And we talk about the big parking lot. Lapsevich, Drayton Lapsevich. He missed a gear going into one, which was kind of surprising me to start off with, and it just piled everybody in.
Yeah,
Just piled them up.
we were coming back from Cedar Lake watching watching the highlights and the coming and going of that race a little bit. And at one point you're counting and there were 12 cars early in that, a couple of them rolled away, but early in that parking lot in turn one, we counted 11 cars that were ultimately involved in that yellow flag.
Yeah.
So,
And included the points leader, Connor Hall.
Correct. That included the 88 of Sammy Smith driving for Junior Motorsports as well.
Yep.
Buddy Isles was involved. So yeah, there was a lot of big names and a lot of point implications that went into what feels like has become a little bit more reoccurring with this series.
I was gonna say, looks like at least the Cars Tour lived up to the expectation, and we trashed a lot of stuff. So,
Which this is obviously, not of anybody's doing by any means, by just missing a shift. But man, like you said, it's just you hear of somebody wrecking somebody or something a lot.
I can't remember who they were interviewing. I saw the interview this morning on Twitter. They were interviewing a guy standing there after you got in that wreck, and he said, he had found an additional sponsor to get himself there. He goes, and they wrecked. He goes, I'm for sure done for the year, potentially done for a full season to follow. So it's somebody like that is scrapping just to get there, and now because of this melee, he's going to be sidelined for a long time.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's still local racing is the thing, too. You got Junior Motorsports, you got Wilson Motorsports in there. Like, you got all these big teams in there and KHI. And it's just, you still got local teams that run on a, you know, or managing their finances on a week to week basis and can't afford something like that to happen. So,
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Like, you go down there and you tear the nose off, and the car has to go have a clip put on it, and now you're having a motor rebuilt, and it's I get it.
I was
So
gonna say,
you
yeah,
you hate to hear those things, but god damn.
that's the unfortunate part of the sport that we love, and it's across all racing where it's like you get these bigger teams, and not saying it's Lasovich or however you pronounce his name, but some of these guys that have these kids that come to the track with these bigger teams that got the money behind them, and they can afford to have some of this happen, but
yep.
to be involved in it, and they don't think twice about it when you don't let that overshadow the flip side of some guy that you know him and his dad or him and his family are scraping together what they can, and they work on the car themselves, and they're just getting by to get to the track, and like you said, a race with respect because they can't afford um they
Hey,
financially can't afford to be involved in something like that. And obviously, this is somewhat of a racing deal, an unfortunate, which is racing. You have to deal with, the unexpected and unfortunate. But yeah, it just sucks to hear the other side of it where, a family owned guy who works on his own stuff, and it's a family deal, and they're just getting by and getting to the track. And then to hear something like, yeah, I'm done for this year or maybe even an entire season, it sucks.
yeah. Yep.
Um, speak of wrecking some stuff. Click on the link that I just sent you guys. Uh, Chance Crum, USAC is racing tonight.
Yeah, I just saw that one. I've got it up on my
Oh,
screen here.
he caught the berm coming out of two there. That car barrel rolled in the air twice before it came back down.
And then landed hard too, to boot.
You landed upright, thank God, but
But again, I mean, he landed flat upright, so
oh,
that's not a soft landing by any means.
no. But I just saw that was a massive one too.
Yeah, I got that. I got actually
Um,
two of them going.
wasn't on our bullet point sheet here, but one we kind of forgot about was the old trash panda.
Yeah. Yep.
He found his way out of there, kept his nose clean. I was just gonna look really quick to see what he ran. He finished decent.
And for those that don't know the reference, that is after Landon Hoffman and the Grady events last weekend. Landon Hoffman came out with some merch this week. After he got called a trash panda, he came out with some trash panda merch. So if that tickles your fuzz, can head over to Landon Hoffman's website and get a trash panda shirt if you're
How about
interested.
this one for him? 34 to 13th.
Not bad.
Didn't have a great car, but made the most of our night and brought it home without a scratch.
And that's a big thing. Without a scratch.
Correct. Yeah, that's plus 21.
That's a hard Charger award, you'd have to think.
Well, I would sure think so.
Yep.
Also,
So
next,
ultimately,
sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
no, I was gonna say Lapsevich ended up getting the lead with about 57 to go and just took off from there.
Yeah.
Couple cautions kind of grouped the field up, but Queen just never really had a chance to get around him.
Yeah.
Oh,
He did have a little bit of a scare too in that one where I forget who was spun up in 1 and 2, but somebody blew a motor and he had to take quick evasive action to get around that one. Hit
yeah,
some oil and
yeah. Minnie Tyrell and they didn't brawl. They just talked about it. It was a little heated conversation, I guess, and they came out and said that it was more of an in the moment discussion. But Minnie Tyrell and Butterbean had a little nose to nose conversation after the race too. So not only was the racing tough, the emotions were high as guys were getting out of the car too.
yep.
Again, cars tour things.
So ultimately, Lapsevich did end up getting his first career win in the Cars Tour as well.
Yeah.
Um, I've got the lineup here, so I'll run through it real quick. So Lapsevich won it. Corey Heim, again, kind of taking advantage of the off weekend. He ran second, Mini Tyrell third, Carson qualified for fourth. Good rebound race for him. Brandon Queen was fifth. Gio Ruggiero was sixth. Mason Diaz seventh. Ronnie Bassett Jr. eighth. Ryan McGillham's ninth, and Brent Cruz was 10th. And again, with Harvick round out in the 11th spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good little race. North Wilkesboro is again puts on fantastic racing, no matter what the series is. So
Take advantage of the repave.
you bet. So yeah, good race. Like we talked about. It seems like the Cars Tour junks more stuff than any series. Time and time again. Racing related, you know, intentional, unintentional. It just feels like every week we flip flop between racing and unfortunate racing, unfortunate. So hopefully that series can get it together. Get a good string, couple races, couple weeks together, just some good hard clean racing and get that cleaned up. So that is it for the Cars Tour. So obviously we'll get into our next topic. And it's going to be a big one as everybody's getting a drink of water here quick. Clearing the pipes and getting ready to throw out some opinions. So, like you said, we are touching on our big race recap here. The USA Nationals at Cedar Lake for the World Outlaws Case Construction late models. We had 3 nights of racing in 2 days. And it feels like wherever the old Jackman goes, rain follows. So Jackman and Tire Change were boots on the ground Thursday night at the facility, ready to rock and roll. And again, we got hammered with rain on Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and they could not get the track into race ready condition. Feels like or it sounds like they had a lot of conversations with the drivers on what to do, and the drivers ultimately made the decision to call the Thursday night portion and push it to Friday afternoon. So, yeah, it was threw a little bit of curveball in our plans as we're talking on Thursday night about if this race gets canceled, what is going to be the plan and strategy. But ultimately, we figured it out. So we all get together, get to the track at right before the old hot laps session on Friday afternoon, double feature. And we had hot laps at 1:30 in the afternoon. So dead smack middle of the day, hot, dusty as all get out. But we had racing, we had double feature. So I'll kick it to you guys. We got a lot to talk about. Where do you guys want to start with feature one on Thursday afternoon?
The character in the track.
Yeah, and there was some character,
There was
to
some
say the least.
big, not big holes, but it was just rough around the bottom.
Ruts. There were ruts.
But it never felt like it really built a cushion. It kind of built a little bit of a shelf because there were some guys running right on the edge of the slick, like a half a car off the top. And then there were some guys that were putting it way up on the top above that little shelf. There's like a car width of a shelf. So, and it was rough as shit up there too. So guys were just kind of all over the place with the character of the track. So it made it interesting because you had to be on your toes no matter where you were, because a lot of those grooves and ruts were right in the racing line where the grip was. So the boys had their hands full for sure. With the character of the track just getting going. So that was the first big note that I felt like was the talking point of that first feature.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, after that, it was, it first little stint of being able to actually put some laps on the track and start gathering points up for the weekend. And especially with the Outlaws format of where every lap matters, you gotta run hard all those green flag laps because you just don't know if you're gonna make it into the eight main. And ultimately, some guys maybe raced a tad bit hard. McLaughlin ended up losing it off of two and chopped Shirley. And with Shirley kind of sitting in the middle of the track, RTJ and Bruning just came in and just plowed into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was McLaughlin gets up on the high side, which he was having a good run. And
Shirley was fast too.
yeah, they both were having good runs. And
They were racing for, well, it was second and third at the time.
And
yeah,
Shirley was quick time in qualifying, I believe.
Second overall, but he was quick time in his group.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
and that's one of the things too is Davenport mentioned it in a few of his interviews that he had this weekend, and just like he thought he was setting a good pace, and he was just gonna maintain his pace, and like all of a sudden like these guys are just balls to the wall, just going for it, and it's like a situation like that for Mad Max McLaughlin there. He rookie of the year contender. You're running second in a heat. It's just we don't need qualifying laps. Yeah, Shirley's coming, and you guys are racing. You can hear him coming, but it's like ultimately just second and third, the difference. Just bring it home.
Hmm.
He was having a good run, and obviously would have set him up for a good rest of the weekend. But obviously he was ripping the high side and missed it coming out of two there, and got the wall right by the chute where everybody comes onto the track, and ultimately sends him across the track and grabs Shirley and wrecks his right front, and he goes spinning. And boy, we are very fortunate that right in front of our eyes that not more people got caught up in that.
Yeah.
One on the high side, one on the low side, and JD, Bruning, some of those guys getting through there. Bruning actually got into it, got involved in a little bit. RTJ got a piece of it, ended his race. So, yeah, it's just interesting. It's like in a heat race, yeah, you got to go, but
At what cost?
at
Yep.
what cost? I mean, again, um, yeah, it was unfortunate. Pierce was gone, so it's like just
Yeah.
Got to salvage.
yeah.
Pierce was for the rest of the most of the weekend. He was kind of a little bit of a class of his own.
Yeah. So, the Thursday afternoon, which was actually the third or Friday afternoon feature, which was Thursday night portion, um, Bobby Pierce gets the win. And that was, I believe it was his sixth win in a row with the World Outlaws. So he was on a heater there. He gets the win, grabs $6,000. T-Mac, Tim McCready, and the Rocket One team, Kyle Bronson finishes third, Nick Hoffman fourth, JD fifth, Bishop sixth, Fager seventh, Gustin eighth, Huddy ninth, and the B1 bomber Brett Larson rounds out your top 10 in that Thursday night feature that was ran on Friday. So again, it was I haven't experienced a dirt race like that. Last year, I know it was dusty as heck on Thursday night, and you guys were all talking about, yep, shower, dirt everywhere. And I hadn't experienced a real dust bowl like that at the racetrack. And so that was,
You got it then.
But
yeah. Yeah, when we got dirt just lined in these old prescription goggles, and your earplug,
Thursday,
you said it earplugs and you stick earplugs in and you pull them out and they're brown. It's like,
Yep.
wow.
um, Thursday last year was dusty, but it wasn't that bad.
No, it was not that bad at all.
And I just had a bad feeling about it when we're going to hot lap at 1:30 on a Friday afternoon in the dead heat of the middle of the afternoon. Sun is just beating down on the track. I was like,
Yep.
Yeah.
was bracing for it. But ultimately, yeah, we got 3 shows in, and that was the most important part. So, yes, that was the Friday afternoon feature, Thursday night portion. And then we took a little 1 or 2 hour intermission, hour and a half. They did a little bit more track prep, and we re-racked them, and we went back to work for another feature on Friday afternoon. So, I guess I'll kick it off to you guys. The Friday night portion there. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the boys raced a little bit harder on Friday night. That second feature, they little more taken, a little less given. They were starting to look at the points for those top 16 being locked into that $50,000 win AMA, so there's a little more take than give. That bit a couple guys, but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see JD win the feature, but he led 17 of the 25 and kind of got reeled in from there.
And I think, we talked about it already earlier. That was another case scenario where he was gone, kind of checked out, and then again you get to 17. There's a little bit before that where you got to get through lap traffic, and lap traffic held him up a little bit, and it takes getting held up one time for somebody to be on your bumper, B Shep and all those guys that were coming. So he gets caught up in a little bit of lap traffic, just couldn't quite get through clean. And yeah, it sucked. But rewinding there a little bit, lap 6, Bobby Pierce and Cade Dillard were going at it. And Bobby Pierce trying to go for his 7th win in a row, slides Dillard coming out of 4, and Dillard was on the loud pedal and just didn't lift. And they get stuck. His right front gets stuck in Bobby's left rear, And as they're sitting there on the top of 4, old Mad Max was hammered down. And
Yeah. Came sailing in there.
he saw that and said, I want to join this party. So he comes sailing in there, and at least he got it sideways and slowed down a little bit, but he slams into the back end of Bobby Pearson.
Yeah.
Luckily,
I watched the replay on that. Dillard drove away without a scratch in the
I
rear
was
end.
I was just gonna say, luckily Mad Max, he got the wall
Yeah.
first, and it kind of slowed him down. But then when he had that thing hooked up on the wall, it got Bobby. Yeah, I don't
They
know
were
how it actually happened because Dillard, like you said, drove away clean, and Bobby was wrecked.
they were putting a new when we stopped and because we walked through the pits Friday night after the races there, we went through there and she was the old construction zone back there. They were putting a new spoiler on it. They were putting a new deck in it. They was getting 2 new rear quarter panels. And I think they even had one of the doors off the car and they were going to try to hammer it out and put it back on the car. So she was sheet metal season there at the 32 trailer on late Friday night, like midnight Friday night. So yeah.
And you could tell when we stopped by, obviously, that turns into some late nights for those teams and thrashing in those cars. But yeah, when we stopped by, you could, needless to say, Bobby wasn't too chipper to get a picture and sign a shirt. So,
Yeah.
you can understand. So yeah, so that ultimately they were fixing it up. They were trying, and really to no avail, just tried to make the most of what he had. But, um, and then another big storyline, a guy who's, um, the old tire changer spent a lot of money supporting his program this weekend. He gets a right rear, goes flat. Nick Hoffman, who we were keeping an eye on it, kind of all weekend there, him and Brandon Shepard in the point gap and what's going to happen there. And really neither one of those could afford to have a bad night for one of those two is going to flip them in points. But Nick Hoffman gets flat and has to go the old hot pit area. So that was unfortunate for him.
He was running in the top 5.
Yep.
And
Oh,
he was solid all weekend.
he was. He really was. I mean, he struggled in that early in that third feature, which we'll talk on a minute here. But outside of that, the dude won both of his heat races.
Yep.
Started on the pin and won both of his heat races. So qualified really well. Obviously, you have to qualify in the top 3 to be on the pin of a heat. So he had his 1 lap time down. He had his short run speed down. So gathering points that way too can help you a little bit at a time. So, no, he did. I mean, he really did have a good weekend. So, the only real other storyline coming out of that second, well, 2 of them really, but the other one is we got to see one go upside down hard.
Yep.
The old tricky, they call him tricky with Tristan Chamberlain. Kind of just caught it wrong.
Caught the right rear.
He
Yeah.
caught
And that thing, it nose dove hard before it landed back on its lid. Just kind of
he
tipped over, caught the nose, and it just flopped over. I mean,
Yeah.
that car hit hard.
he was coming out of 2, and it was Cody Overton was coming off, and he was kind of coming up the track, and Cody Overton was coming down, and his right front caught Overton's left rear, and it just turned his car a little bit right, and once it turned right a little bit, it just went over. And then they, of course, have to announce there's a brand new car.
Second race, I think, on it.
Yeah.
And we've got the entire sheet metal for sale in merch roll the next day. So,
Yeah. Yeah, they did. I just saw they posted by the time we got home, they had posted that that was an Infinity. So a little more traction on this Infinity chassis in the dirt world. It's intriguing. But they said that that thing was totaled. So they ran their backup Longhorn for the second day, the Saturday, and then next week they were headed to Infinity to build themselves a brand new car again. So yeah,
Ultimately, he goes upside down. Like you said, first big upside down wreck that we've um really seen. I guess we saw one earlier in the night with the local late models. Um, Buddy went over, little barrel roll, lost a spoiler, landed on all fours, and he just drove her to the pits. So
yeah.
Yeah.
that was we like those kind of flips because he lost the spoiler, flipped her, and he fired her back up and just drove her to the pits. But this one, much more violent, obviously undrivable. He was stuck on his lid, so they had to flip him over. Obviously, the most important part, Chamberlain hops out. He's good. Um, but yeah, we had to get the old red flag condition and the old double wrecker to get that thing. And when we walked through the pits that Friday night and we saw that thing sitting there, I mean, that thing was just mangled. It
Yeah.
was like sitting there and it's like, oh yeah, wherever they set that thing down, it ain't moving. So um obviously a young guy, I think they said, what is he, 20 years old, 19?
16.
18, I thought.
I thought it
16.
said 16. Good look.
Either way, um, unfortunate that he gets wrecks a brand new car, but obviously young guy, new track, running for rookie of the year.
17.
17 years old, got a lot to learn. And yeah, just an unfortunate part of the whole deal. So um we don't have I'll pull it up here,
I got it pulled up here.
but
Uh, so
ultimately I was gonna just give you a little bit of uh preview there. I ultimately it was Jonathan Davenport starts getting reeled in lap traffic um by old B Shep, and then kind of out of nowhere, the old Reaper Ryan Gustin just magically appears. I don't have the top rundown here, but Reaper gets the win kind of out of nowhere. Um,
Kind of out of nowhere. In like lap 19, he was there and then he was gone.
he led 2 laps. That's
well,
what
it
he ended
was
up leading.
those last two laps there was kind of B Shep and him had kind of, separated themselves. And those two were kind of going at it. They were putting on a good show there. They were side by side uh at the line with the white flag. And then it was at the bottom of one there. We talk about track having a little bit of character, and Bishop just couldn't quite get her through there clean. And you could see he was bouncing up and down a little bit. And Gustin was hammered down on the top side and ultimately gets the win. But um, I don't have the top 10.
I got it right here. So top 10, Gustin, Shepard comes in P2, Jonathan Davenport P3, Brian Shirley 4th, Ricky Thornton 5, Dustin Sorensen 6th, Hudson O'Neill 7th, Garrett Smith 8th, Ethan Dotson 9th, and Jason Fager was 10th.
Yeah. So yeah, good show. Those boys were racing hard. Um, and yeah, I just pulled up the results there. Gustin went +8 to win that thing. Ricky Thornton Jr. goes +8 to finish fifth. Cody Overton, who we mentioned, was involved in that wreck. He goes +15. He finishes 11th, and Kyle Bronson finishes 13th and goes +10. So looking at that, it was a racy track. Good hard racing there. So yeah. So that was all on Friday. The kind of the preliminary night. And then we get to Saturday, and Saturday was the big dog. 50,000 to win, 100 laps. And obviously, as we do, We get there early and often, and we had pit passes, had some snacks walking through the pits, and I mean, to be honest, I didn't even look at the radar. I looked at it on like Thursday night and saw no rain expected. And all of a sudden we're sitting there and Kellen hears over the loudspeaker, hot laps are moved up an hour and a half from 6:30 to 5 o'clock. And again, we're dealing with Mother Nature. So I popped in at the drivers meeting and they said they were going to just try to move the show along as efficiently as they could. And if they felt like they had to axe anything, they were going to axe the two dashes for the top 16. Ultimately, they didn't axe anything except the last 44 laps of the main event. But I'll kick it off to you guys. The Saturday portion of that. What thoughts did we have?
Yeah, so going into it, you kind of think, especially with how we saw the weather coming in, you're racing the rain is basically what it is. And it was a coming. So your elbows up. Unfortunately for one driver, didn't even get really a chance to do it. Shepard broke off lap one, ends up being a fuel line issue. Came out, ran some more laps, but then ultimately just pulled it in afterwards.
Yeah. They didn't even make a lap, so he wasn't allotted the 2 lap
Work time.
the work time, yeah. But those guys usually get 2 laps if there's something that happens, like right rear, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so he's rolled off in the top 3. So right out of the gate, 1 lap in, you got issues already. So
A guy who was bad fast all weekend.
yeah.
Started third. You figured he was going to have something to say about who was going to win that $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, really, so we got 56 scored laps that feature him, but it really came in two long runs. Just opened up, track was prepped and ready to go, and they just 2 long runs. And really, I mean, they raced a lap, well, the first caution right away, but then lap 20 when Shannon Babb got a flat up on the top. He went out, had it switched, and then from there they ran to the rain. So
Yep.
36 laps from there on out, they just ran right until it was too wet to race.
Yep.
So
Pierce ended up getting the lap on lap 2 and ultimately never looked back. I mean, he just took off. Even through lap traffic, he was just able to weave his way through lap traffic and just handle the lead basically.
yeah.
Until late.
They were real
Until
late.
late.
Like lap 54 late when it was
Lap
too
54
late.
late, and
Yeah.
a local guy that I don't want to say was unexpected, but
Came out of nowhere.
running for rookie of the year. He's got 1 win on the year. That 19 of Dustin Sorensen, I mean, all of a sudden came out of nowhere. And I will say one thing, you could clearly tell in the stands, people were rooting for him.
Yep.
Obviously a kind of local guy from Minnesota, so from close by.
Run a lot of races there.
Ran a lot of races there. He was with Mars last year. And obviously you want to see the local guy, kind of the underdog, knock off the reigning champion of the event. But he came out of nowhere, just
Yeah,
ripping the top.
that was Gustin, like where all of a sudden it's just he was there and he was right there. But then when they threw that yellow for the rain at the end here, you could audibly hear the crowd go, no. And they were just
Yep.
like, there's a huge sigh. Like he got within a car and a half,
He was on the outside of Pierce.
showed the nose a little bit here and there, and you could hear the crowd just screaming.
Yep.
The place was
And
full. You could hear it. That was awesome.
yeah, that was super cool. And I think that was, Pierce was running middle, kind of that middle of the track towards, and then a little bit on the bottom. And it was one of those things that was going to be, you risk it for the biscuit. And who was going to be the first one to go up top and do it and risk it? And Sorensen went up there. And I'll be damned if I wouldn't say if we had another 2-3 laps in there that he's got the lead. So,
Mother Nature took that one from him.
100%.
Unfortunately.
He had the entire crowd behind him, which was cool to see. But yeah, so they go 56 laps. It was scored a checkered yellow. Bobby Pierce gets another $50,000 win. That's 2 in a row for him at the USA Nationals. Kyle Bronson finishes second, Dustin Sorensen third, Reaper Ryan Gustin fourth, JD fifth, Hudson O'Neill sixth, Cade Dillard, Ricky Thornton Jr., T-Mac, Tim McCready, and Brian Shirley round out your top 10 there. So loaded top 10. Again, we were cut short. That was the most uneasy feeling I've had in a long time, as about lap 20 under the first caution, we were watching lightning just off the track, and I'm going, no place I'd rather be than this big metal bleacher.
I mean, you could feel the storm coming in too with how all the wind picked up just before they took the green flag.
Yeah.
And so yeah, pretty uneasy feeling. And we just give each other all the look with our earplugs in and say, make sure you're ready to grab and go.
Yep.
And to be honest, I don't know who the official was, but why? Like NASCAR, if there's a lightning strike within X miles of the track, I mean, that's immediate. And I mean, it was visibly close to the track, and we're just out there, get her to halfway, I guess.
They might not have regulations like that.
Clearly they don't. Because yeah. So anyways, pretty uneasy feeling. And then at about lap 56, you could feel the big heavy raindrops starting to come, and people start peeling out, and all of a sudden it goes yellow, and then it was a mad dash for the exits.
And like we said, it was definitely warranted. That rain started to come down, and actually you saw Pierce just slide up into the cushion from there.
Yeah, he slid up and caught the wall with the right rear, and then Turbo, he was in the middle of two, and he kind of slowed, and the car literally just shuffled itself down to the inside wall, and he actually had to get pushed. He had to get pushed to get going to make it around to make it to the chute off of one.
Yeah. So I mean, it was definitely warranted.
Yeah.
So yeah, we made a mad dash. We were listening to the loudspeaker as we were exiting the facilities, and they said Mother Nature was here 15 to 20 minutes earlier than they anticipated. We are sorry. Please exit safely and quickly. Yeah.
So I guess one thing, because this kind of leads us to our next topic of conversation here is kind of we talk about the rain. One thing just about the entire weekend and the fan experience of that event, and we missed it because they did driver intros and the like. Two things. One, potentially second best driver intros of the year behind the Gateway Dirt Nationals.
Yep.
Lights out, spotlight, drivers buckled in, helmets off if you want them, but
Lights in the
driver
fans
intro.
for
Yep.
Spotlight.
Driver intros is number 2 behind the Gateway Dirt Nationals. That's pretty cool. And the other part of that is the fan experience at the track is great.
Mm.
You talk about going in the pits after the races and seeing drivers and getting autographs or hero cards, or going up to the merch trailers and everyone up on merch row. Like, there really wasn't anybody that was like, wow, that was not great.
Yep.
So just the whole fan experience of the entire event was a 10 out of 10. So
Yeah, I will second that. Super cool event. first time doing the pit pass and feeling like big nuts. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, it was, I mean, kind of wild actually. I mentioned to Kellen one time we were walking through the pits. It's kind of wild that you can buy a pit pass and you got random people walking through the pits as guys are rolling off the track. They're staging cars. You shit, me and Kellen walked right up to the chute and looked at the track. We were standing on the wall. Like, it is wild what you can do with a pit pass. And I guess that's why you sign the waiver when you buy it. So, uh, yeah, 10 out of 10 experience. Drivers are a ton of fun after the race. As long as they don't have to rebuild a car. Just super cool experience. So, super fun event. Unfortunately, we didn't get all 100 in, but we got 56 in. And it was fantastic racing. So, any other final thoughts on the weekend?
No, and I mean, like Kellen said, this kind of leads into the next topic and
Yeah.
maybe a conversation we've had in the past, but it kind of is warranted to bring up again.
Yeah, I would say we've had this conversation and we've hinted at it, but we've never really dove into it and said, all right, what should a track or a series or official do if they know weather is coming? So open up the conversation. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, step number one of that deal was move the entire program up to start with. Recognized it, saw it. All right. Feasibly, we could be ready to go at 5:30. Cool. That's step number one. From there, it's you got to keep your eye on the radar, and you can't let your eye off of it. You got to update it all the time, see where it's going, how fast it's moving, all that, and make any adjustments that you need. Like Cam was saying too, like, all right, if we're gonna cut anything, dashes are gonna get cut. Cool. Didn't ultimately work out, and could have it been? Did we need to keep them? Kind of wish we didn't, but how much of a difference would that have made as well?
Yeah. And how much, I guess the question is, how much did the unpredictable be unpredictable as those races were lining up? You know, you're looking at it going, yeah, we're good now. It's not going to be here till 9 o'clock, maybe even 10 after 9. Knowing our pace for 100 laps, we can probably make it. All of a sudden, you roll out that second dash with the top 8 and you refresh the radar. And now it says 850, and you're going,
Oh,
we don't have a choice now because we have cars on the track and we've already run one dash. Well, all right,
yep.
here we go. So, there's a little, the unpredictability part can also affect that as well, where it just flip of a switch, things can change and really ain't nothing you can do about it.
And one
But
of the things
go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things that I thought of too, and I mentioned, and this was my big sticking point, was, and you've seen this with Midwest Tour, and you've seen this with, I think Cars Tour did one time last year at North Wilkesboro, was obviously the Outlaws are the main event. Main event kind of, what the ruling is main event. Does the Outlaws really have control of the program and how it's run? Because we also had the Cedar Lake late models there, the local guys. And was it to the point where we could have maybe flip-flopped the Cedar Lake late models last chance and feature with the Outlaws? So run the Outlaws last chance first, Cedar Lake last chance first or second, and then Outlaws features first, Cedar Lake feature second, to give yourself some time.
Yeah.
And my thought is, again, so we hemmed and hawed at this for an hour and a half on the drive back after it happened. Ultimately, kudos to them for at least moving it up an hour and a half, and we got to see 56 of 100 laps.
Yep, absolutely.
Same situation with most asphalt races. Once you get 50% of the race in, if rain comes, it's
It's an
official.
official race.
So I guess at least kudos to them that they moved it up and we got 56 in. But I think to that point is, like you said, when you're dealing with Mother Nature, the last thing you want to be doing is, it's like flying in an airport. If your plan has to go everything has to go exactly as planned for you to make it, but to the minute, you got the wrong plan. And so if we're planning that, hey, we can get 100 laps in and we should be done at about 8:55 and rain is supposed to be here at about 9. Again, I think you're playing with fire and you're asking for what we got. And yeah, I guess the question becomes is, do you give the World Outlaws, the guys that come to this track one time a year, and everybody that's here is here for that main event? Do you give them the preferential treatment and say, yep, we're going to flip, screw the local guys, we're going to make sure that we get this race in instead of the local guys? I don't know.
It's a tough call.
It's a
Who
tough
makes
call,
that
no
decision?
matter
Yeah.
what you do. Because at the end of the day, you gotta tread very lightly with the guys that you have. And you and I had Van Girl had talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. If the weather was coming in, you gotta also take care of your weekly guys, because specifically in that area, there's a handful of dirt tracks around there that guys could say, I'll go run weekly somewhere else.
Sure.
So
And
you also have to take care of the guys that are taking care of you week in and week out.
yep.
So I understand there is a large percentage of revenue in all of the campsites, the 1,300 campsites that were sold out, and everything that goes into that weekend. I understand it. I really do, but
Man, just what do you
you ask
do?
yourself, am I going to cut my left hand off or am I going to cut my right hand off?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So
And it like the other thing I kind of got to thinking of too was, okay, do you obviously Sunday was open. Throwing this out there. That's another day that guys got to stay at the track. Maybe some of them got hotels that you got to book a room again or find a room again. Same with fans. I mean, and that was part of the moving it up part too, was you're trying to avoid having an extra day to boot too.
well, yeah, and that kind of goes back to the Thursday conversation. Say it rains hard enough on Saturday night, the track still might not be ready on Sunday. Then you say had everyone stay around. They try to roll it in, and then you go, "Oh well, sorry, we're not going to make it." And then you got somebody that's traveling halfway across the country that's going, "Well, you just costed me 24 hours of travel time. Like what? Now I'm the one that's in a shit spot because you made a bad decision. You know, like that's the only other part of it too, where it's." Yeah, I don't know. It's a really tricky situation all the way around. So
Yeah. And I don't think I don't think that would have been an option. I think the track and whoever was making the calls is in the mindset of, we're doing this tonight and we're going to make the most of it. We're not going to keep these guys around for another day and force that, because then that, like you said, that forces a whole nother headache for teams, for fans, for everybody else. So I feel like the decision was made, we're going to do our damnedest to get this thing in on Saturday night. Whatever we can get in, it's what it's going to be. But, you know, you guys touched on the driver and crew impact. Obviously, it has major implications on these teams that travel the country. They've got it timed out too. Hey, we need to leave the track by this time. Heck, we were following haulers out of the track that were already on the road. So these teams got everything calculated on where they're traveling. And yeah, I don't think that it's a huge impact if you push it to Sunday and then run the risk of, I mean, it poured. The rain
Yep.
that we got, it poured. So I don't even know that they would have been able to get it ready to go on Sunday. So I don't know. It sucks for everybody involved. For fans, for drivers, for the track. I don't know. I don't know the best way to go about it. The only thing that I would say is err on the side of caution. So again, don't, if rain's supposed to be here at 9, don't plan to have the race finish at 8:50, because again, we only had one caution. Say we had another Tristan Chamberlain go upside down and you got a double wrecker.
Yep.
That's 5-10 minutes. Then we're talking about only getting 30 laps in.
Yeah,
So
then you open up the conversation of what race is official.
bingo.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. There isn't a perfect solution. It sucks for everybody, but I guess my guess would be is step one is don't play with fire or you're going to get burnt. So again, don't make a plan that if everything goes perfectly, we'll be done at 8:50 when rain is supposed to get here at 9. Because one, nothing's going to go perfectly. And two, as we witnessed, Mother Nature can make up its mind and go faster than you think it can. So that's step one. And then step two is going to be, if you don't move it up, the people that make the decisions have got to decide. Then it's in the track, whoever makes that call of, hey, do we slash? What event do we slash or what race? And then do we start flip flopping? What's more important? So it's a sucky situation all around, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I don't know. Just thought we'd want to touch on just, what I guess, what are the expectations? What can the track do? Yeah, again, it is what it is. And ultimately I guess this is us being diehard racing fans and getting greedy. Look, we got to see 56 fantastic laps of racing. Saw 56 of 100, so we saw more than 50% of the race. Kudos for at least getting that in. This is us having a conversation of getting greedy, saying, as a diehard race fan, we want to see all 100 laps and see how that thing would have fully shaken out. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I guess
Yeah, they very well could have postponed it to a night that none of us could have been there. So
true that.
Take it for what we can.
yeah.
And yeah, like you said, the amount of people, that place was packed to the gills. So,
Yeah.
kudos to them for making a decision, sticking to it, and giving it their best shot. We're greedy as race fans. We want to see how all 100 would have shaken out, but we got to see 56 of the feature. Lucky for us, because we dang well could have been getting a race postponed that we wouldn't have been able to see, or not seen any of that race at all. So, yeah, tough situation, but at least thankful that they made the calls that they did and moved it up and we got to see some racing. So
Yep.
that kind of wraps up our Cedar Lake experience. So while we were at the track, there was other racing going on this weekend that we weren't really dialed into, but we'll kick it to the tire changer. We'll test your reading skills this week. Let's see what you got for other winners this week.
Yeah, so like we mentioned last week, it was kind of a slow week of racing. A lot of combined series at tracks, or just not a lot of racing going on, so this will be kind of a quick one. But Luke Soil, the AMSOIL sprint cars, they continue to enter in a sprint week. They actually have their last race currently going on as we record on Sunday night. But Logan Seavey won at Lawrenceburg Speedway and Circle City Speedway as well. Brady Bacon won at the Terre Haute Action Track. And then Justin Grant won at the Tri-State Speedway. Bloomington was rained out previously in the week, got moved to today. So again, we'll wrap that one up tonight. Logan Seavey currently leads the points in the Indiana Sprint Week as well, as we wrap up again tonight. Hunt the Front Series, Sam Seward ended up winning night 1, and then Tanner English won night 2 at Duck River Raceway. We talked about the sprint cars at Federated Auto Parts. The Extreme Midgets were also there. Carter Sarf swept the weekend as well. He won on both nights with Kyle Larson. Same theme there. The All-Star Challenge was in cohesion with the Big 8 late models at Madison. Michael Bilderback wins that one. The Pro late models also raced at North Wilkesboro. Tristan McKee got the win there. Arca Menards, they were at Elko. Williams Walsh won that one. Got the same storm as well. Also got a pretty good shot out of that one. The Whelen Modified Series, they were at Lancaster. Austin Beers goes back to back at Lancaster, winning that one. Badger Midget Series was at Sycamore. Todd Kluver won that one. The American Canadian Tour, also known as the Axe Series. DJ Shaw wins that one at White Mountain. And then earlier today, the IMSA Sports Car Series was at Road America. The Team Penske Porsche, the number 6 car, won that one. And that kind of was the week that was for the racing around the country.
For sure.
Another team Penske win in the great state of Wisconsin.
Got that right.
So yeah, we weren't dialed into all those races as we were hot and heavy at the track. So another quick little session here. Not a ton. Finally nice that I shouldn't say nice, but finally we get a week that's a little bit slower on the news here. So the old Jackman, I'll kick it to you. We got a few facts for you. Fast facts, chewing the tire, kicking the fat, whatever you want to call this segment. We got a few facts for you, but kick it to the old Jackman. Hit us with a fact.
Juan Pablo Montoya. He's gonna hop back behind the seat of a Cup Series car. A little different car from when he was previously racing. But he is going to run Watkins Glen in the last appearance in the number 50 for 2311 this year. So, road course veteran racing a road course in the Cup Series.
Of note, that's the middle race of the round of 16 as well.
Yeah.
So be pretty sweet. We'll see if he can hit another jet dryer while he's out there in his one appearance.
Jesus.
You can take the next shot.
I was wondering how long that was going to take. All right. Tyler Courtney. Obviously, we talked about the Knoxville Nationals are coming up here shortly. We'll talk about that in a moment. The 360 Nationals, as tradition, races the weekend before. Tyler Courtney getting a little track time. Wins the 360 Nationals this week as well.
And then I will hit this last fact. Old Grady from the Cars Tour last week. Obviously, he made some headlines there with the old Trash Panda comment and the fight post race. He was suspended for his actions at Hickory, and of note for getting physical with the series director. So he will be on a little bit of a vacation.
3 week suspension.
3 weeks. So,
or no, sorry, 3 race suspension.
3 race. So, little suspension came out of that. That obviously was in the headlines last week. After what was just a wild turn of events at Hickory. So, yeah, that's kind of the 3 facts we got for you. Again, it was kind of a slow week of news, and kind of was a slow week because we had a little bit of limited racing for what feels like the first time in a long time. So as we get into this here, let's get into kind of the last portion of the podcast here, and let's get into race previews here. So I don't know who wants to take Knoxville Nationals.
I will take that one since I will probably do a preview later in the week on that. So racing gets underway on Wednesday night for them. Currently we have 107 entries for this weekend's race. So the field will be split up into 2 nights, Wednesday and Thursday night. Format, again, kind of similar to Cedar Lake. Basically, you earn points for quick time qualifying, but you also earn points for heat finishes, C main, B main, A main features, whatever the case may be. So, the top 16 in the combined points from Wednesday and Thursday are locked into Saturday's A main. 17 through 16th will be awarded the first 10 positions in Saturday's B main, and the rest of the field comes back for one more race on Friday. So on Friday, they will determine spots 21 through 24, split into multiple features there. And of course, Saturday has the main event, where it'll be the last chance for anybody to try and lock in, starting with some E mains on Saturday as well.
It's
Little
always a sign of a good dirt event when you're running an E-main.
Kyle Larson was last year's winner of this event. Donnie Schatz, Carson Macedo, and Aaron Rutzel were your prelim winners last year as well.
little super racing.
Little super racing, you got that right.
Kel, you want the next one or you want me to take this one?
You can take the Cup Series.
All right. So obviously, Cup Series coming back off of a 2-week break here for the Olympic break here. So they are coming back, and we are headed to Richmond. Richmond's kind of been in the news a lot lately, schedule wise, and potential moves of events, and maybe losing a race. But Chris Buescher was your winner here last year, and winner of this event last year, and Denny Hamlin won at Richmond earlier this year. Toyota is typically strong here for the top 10 spots earlier this year. So I'm not giving unsolicited fantasy advice, but take that for what it's worth. And first track on the schedule here that we're coming back to a second time. So guys got a baseline notebook of a little bit what they had in the car last time and something to build off. So this race is gonna be awesome. So what's up?
Got to remember, they got 2 tire compounds.
Yep, and I was just gonna get to that. This is gonna be a fantastic race. We are coming here with 2 tire compounds, similar to what we did at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race. 2 compound tires there. So it's gonna be awesome. Another little unique strategy, little spin on it, and yeah, it just adds a little bit of who's going to be the first one to go for it, and is it going to pay off or not. So love that. Hopefully one of those tires has got to fall off like Bristol earlier in the year, because that would be awesome. But yeah, so truck or NASCAR Cup Series back in action after a 2-week break, a little bit of refresh. Take some time, watch the Olympics, go USA, and they will be there with the Truck Series as well. So that'll be this weekend. So
Sweet. Last one for the weekend. Big race for us up here in the state of Wisconsin. The Gandrud Auto Group 250 at Wisconsin International Raceway up in Kaukauna. For us up here, it'll forever be the Dixieland. Let's just call it the Dixieland.
Formerly known as the Dixieland. Yep.
Formerly known, but still known as the Dixieland. Ty Majeski, who's a 2023 winner. This is now sanctioned by the ASA Midwest Tour, where last year it was run by the ASA Stars National Tour. So a little switch there. And when you look at the entry list, that might be why we're seeing some more familiar names. They will also be accompanied by the Midwest Trucks as well. So pretty good little show there. Looking at last year, Ty Majeski was your winner. Fenhouse was P2, Kraus 3, Summers 4, and then Barrett Polhemus finished 5th last year. So that was your top 5. Looking at this year's entry list, as of August 1st, with 28 cars on the entry list. You got some heavy hitters when you look at this one as well. So the likes of Ty Majeski will always be tough to beat. Johnny Sauter, Derek Kraus, Austin Nason, Ty Fredrickson, Luke Fenhouse, Lowell Bennett just won a weekly race there last week. Gabe Sommers, and then all of your regulars for the Midwest Tour, and then handful of weekly guys getting back in there. So you're looking at Monday, two Vandermollens, Manders, obviously Will Bennett, Grant Griesbach. So finally good to see the local guys back running this big one. So
Yep,
looking
absolutely.
at a $15,000 payday. So that's nothing to shake a stick at, that's for sure. So guys will be ready to rock and roll with the stars and cars of the ASA Midwest Tour. So looking at the schedule for the upcoming week for week of racing. So when we look at what we go as we go here, the past super lates at Oxford Plains, Midwest Tour, they're running on Tuesday night of note. So little midweek show for them. As we scroll down, the XR Northern Storm, they've kind of got races running most of the week. August 5th, August 5th, 6th, 7th. They've got they're kind of doing a swing up here with Ogilvy, Princeton, Hibbing. You go down a little further. The Wissota late models are running at Proctor along with the Northern Storm. Cars, late model stock back in action at Ace Speedway. See what the car count's like for them. They will also be accompanied by the pro late models. Lucas Oil Dirt late models getting kicked off again. Florence. As we go a little further, Outlaw Midgets are running their Clyde Martin Memorial at the Clyde Hart Memorial Speedway for that. Alive for 5 super late models back at the Dells for the Badger State 125 on Saturday afternoon. Lucas Oil back at Florence again. USAC Silver Crown, Jennerstown. Obviously, we touched on the World Outlaw Sprint Cars for the Knoxville Nationals. Arkham Menards at Tri-City. Badger Mid at Audio Racing back at Angel Park. Well, Bam Dirt late models as well at Angel Park. So pretty cool little run there. And then obviously the NASCAR Cup Series headed to Richmond for the Cookout 400. So that's a dive into what's on tap for the next 7 days of racing.
And if you got it, if you got streaming services or you're at the local track, all this racing action kicks off tomorrow on Monday, August 5th, and it rolls all the way to next Sunday. So depending on where you're at, what streaming services you have, and where they're at, you got 7 straight days of racing coming up. So in a wide range of disciplines. So it'll be fun next week here. Hopefully a lot of storylines come out of the racing. Looking forward to getting the Cup Series going again. And with that, getting our fantasy going here. Again, no changes in fantasy. Obviously, they've been off from 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to skip the recap there. Our tire changer has still got the lead. So we'll do an in-depth recap of that next week after we finally get back in action. So hopefully it's fun. Hopefully the old tire changer lost his touch here with that 2-week break. And so it'll be hopefully he presses a few wrong buttons after the 2-week break. So
Noted.
Yeah.
Kind of get into race picks then, huh?
Yeah, I added a section if you didn't
Yeah,
notice.
I sees that. So let's
Sorry.
recap last week's.
My computer just locked up on me for a minute there, so I couldn't see what was next. But
we'll
right.
recap last week's picks here as we picked 2 for Cedar Lake. So just to recap, I had Brandon Pierce and RTJ. Kellen had Brandon Shepard and Hudson O'Neill, and Cam had Jonathan Davenport and Nick Hoffman. When it came down to it, I just did golf score. P1 was 1 point, P2 was 2 points, so on and so forth. I ended up winning the weekend with a total of 9 points. Cam, you finished second in 17 points, and Kellen, you had it rough. You had 33, and obviously Shepard did not help you with that.
It was looking really good till the first lap of the feature.
Yep. So Based on those results, and we're also doing an additional race pick for the Dixieland or the Gandrod Auto Group 250. We're going to pick Richmond here first with Kel, Cam, and myself as the picking order, and then we're going to do the Gandrod race with myself, Cam, and Kel, the picking order there.
Little snake draft.
Yep, little snake draft. I did, I think, slightly extend my points lead in the rolling points picks. I'm up by almost to 100 points. Is where we're sitting at right now. So,
Yeah. Larson.
all right, Richmond, Kellen, you
Larson.
get first pick.
Larson.
Larson,
Defending. Yeah.
Christopher Bell.
Bell. All right. I'm gonna stick in the Toyota camp. Give me Hamlin.
Okay. You get
So
to
those
fire
are-
up Dixieland.
Yep.
Now, remember, 91's off the board.
Okay, I was gonna ask. Majeski is off the board.
Of course.
Okay. So that changes Cam's strategy up a little bit then. I can see
You gotta
him digging
remember,
deep.
last year was the 4-barrel.
Yep.
You gotta beat
So
you guys.
so that's still not gonna alter my pick at all. I'm gonna take Gabe Summers.
Am I up?
Yep, you're up.
Yeah, Cam, go ahead and pick them because you're gonna.
So probably want to stick away from the old Morrissey car.
Jesus.
Had some time to work on it.
Yeah, they got it right. I bet.
Yeah, we'll see when they throw that template.
There's an
out.
obvious pick out here for you.
So yeah, I'm mauling, so I've been mauling, I've been going with the homer pick of Kraus. And again, it's been paying off. He's been consistent outside of the state park run. He's been consistent. He runs well. And this
P3
Gander
last year.
P3 last year, and I think it was the year before, that he had an absolute missile and qualified quick time. And then he had something in, I think maybe his radiator or something went out
Yeah.
the year before.
Got a hole in the radiator. He was literally
So-
running in the top 5.
So yeah, so you guys want to rip on the homer pick, but
Damn it.
You're
Well-
locking it in.
yeah, I'll just lock it in.
Okay.
Whatever. I was gonna pick him, but it's fine.
I mean, I left you from the hammers. Johnny Sauter. He's nuclear faster if he doesn't hit the styrofoam in the back stretch.
Or break an axle.
I was just there keep the axles in the rear end.
Sorry, Johnny.
Paulie Schaefer.
Former winner.
He's running from the Wolves.
Yes, you guys. Oh,
Johnny D.
Morrissey was bad fast at Slinger.
yeah, this isn't Slinger.
Schaefer's running the same car that Thorne had.
DeAngelis he had a missile last year until that was Jankowski.
D'Angelo's enough. I'm sick of your guys' shit. D'Angelo's.
Go with Lil Bennett.
D'Angelo's. Give me the 7.
All right.
Give me the black and orange 7.
Old Brewer Ryan Braun.
Come on.
All right.
Let's wrap this up.
So that we'll in review and summation real quick. For the cup picks, Kellen's got Larson. Cam, you got Bell. I have Hamlin, and then I have Sommers. Cam, you have Kraus, and Kellen has DeAngelis for the Gandrod race at Kakana.
Yep.
Yeah. So, wow, what an episode. We got a lot of dirt racing to talk about. That was the Woo was in full swing this past weekend. Sprint cars at I-55. We were boots on the ground at Cedar Lake. So a lot of awesome racing this past weekend. Any other final thoughts?
No, great weekend. Obviously, it's turning into one of my favorite weekends on the year to go to. Might have to slightly adjust here a little bit due to some events that are coming up, but No, excited for the rest of the week. I'll be at Kaukauna on Tuesday for that one. Another one of my favorite races on the year. Should be good.
You going to Dells on Saturday?
Yes.
That one's crossed my mind too. So I'll
5
maybe.
for 5.
Yep.
Yeah, so that will wrap up episode number 45 here for the Three Stones Pit Crew. And yeah, it was a down and dirty episode. Lot of dirt. And as you listened along, hopefully you didn't get as dusty as we did at the track. Hopefully there's no dust in your eyes or dust in your ears, or even dust in your shorts. But hopefully you got to enjoy this episode. We certainly did. We enjoy talking racing. So as always, don't be afraid to smash that like button, give us some comments, and hit that bell, and get all of our content whenever it comes out. And of course, share these episodes with your closest friends. So as always, we appreciate you guys listening along with us, and we will see you all next week for another episode of Tuesday Track Talk.